got the Gold Glove finalists that have been announced, and there are some Phillies represented on that list. Plus, today is the day Rob Thomson and Dave Dombrowski speak live to the media. We're going to be watching live, reacting as well here on PHLY Phillies podcast coming up. We're talking postseason press conferences, not postseason as in playoffs, postseason as in the season is over and all of our hopes and dreams are crashed and burned. Welcome into PHLY Phillies podcast presented by Ace Hardware, as this Red October is brought to you by Ace Hardware Home Services. You can check them out online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project. Tyler, Jamie, myself, Renee, what's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Today, we're going to be getting into the list of Phillies that are on the Gold Glove Award finalists, that list that has come out, and we're still getting the live updates now. We've also got to get into Rob Thomson and Dave Dombrowski's media availability today. They'll be talking on a press conference, and we'll be able to react live here since they did us a huge favor and have it going on at the same time as our show. Plus, we'll just get into looking ahead at the ALCS and NLCS without the Phillies, which is always difficult. Looking at the tied series between the Mets and Dodgers, looking at the Guardians' start to the ALCS to drop a loss to the Yankees, who made some history yesterday. All that coming up today, guys. First things first, though. We got some Gold Glove finalists on the Phillies. There's a small bit of, I don't want to call it excitement at all because it does feel wasted. But the list has been coming out for the Gold Glove Award finalists as they're being unveiled position by position. They're dropping the AL and the NL list. So on the AL side, we'll save our friends for last. On the AL side, for the pitchers, we've got Seth Lugo, Cole Riggins, and Griffin Canning. Freddie Furman, Cal Raleigh, and Jake Rogers for catchers. First base, Nathaniel Lowe, Ryan Mountcastle, Carlos Santana. Second base right now is Andres Jimenez, Nicky Lopez, and Marcus Semien. And then on the other side for the NL, so far they've released pitcher, catcher, first base, second base as well. And they're slowly, oh, wait, I just updated. We've got more. Wow, they've been updating very fast.
It's coming out here.
So the third, staying with the AL side, third base, Alex Bregman, Ernie Clement, Jose Ramirez, shortstop, Brian Rocchio, Anthony Volpe, Bobby Witt Jr., and left fielders, Colton Cowser, Stephen Kwan, Alex Verdugo. So for the NL, there are some Phillies that are on the list. At shortstop, Mason Wynn, Ezekiel Tovar, Dansby Swanson, so no Trey Turner. At third base, no Alec Bohm. It's Ryan McMahon, Matt Chapman, Nolan Arenado. But we've got at second base, Bryson Stott. I'm trying to keep the suspense going here.
All right, so real quick, it does not appear we're going to be able to share this with you, so we're gonna have to relay it with you.
Oh, dang it! That's why I was stalling.
Yeah,
too.
I know you were stalling. I was like trying to, because I thought it was gonna be on Phillies.com and we could just share it with you. Apparently not, but it has gotten underway there. The first piece of news coming out of it is Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thomson said Rob Thompson's contract has been extended through 2026. The entire coaching staff is returning next season as well. So Kevin Long, Caleb Cotham, the whole squad returning. They're running it back from a coaching standpoint. So that's the first piece, a little bit of news to come out of it.
So there's nowhere to visibly watch this.
It does not appear so, which is very strange to me in the year 2024. Phillies typically...
not on Twitter, not on YouTube?
I'll check a Phillies YouTube.
While you check that, let me give some more updates.
We'll put the NRD on it.
Yes, you guys check that out.
We'll give the updates as they happen, as we get them here.
For pitcher, for the NL, we've got Zach Wheeler is including as a Gold Glove Award finalist, along with Luis Severino and Chris Sale. And then for catchers, it's Will Smith, Gabriel Moreno, and Patrick Bailey. And Bryce Harper's on the list for first base, alongside Matt Olson, Christian Walker, and as mentioned, Bryson Stott is on second base lists. So Bryson Stott, Bryce Harper, and Zach Wheeler so far, the only ones, and honestly the only ones I really expect to be on this list. But to your point about the current live press conference that's going on between Rob Thomson and Dave Dombrowski speaking, we are still looking. I know Linda's saying it's on NBC Sports Philly. So we are going to need to find a way to give you. We're going to keep giving you guys updates.
Oh, here we go.
Here it is.
Tyler, thank you, sir.
Yay.
Thank you to NBC Sports Philly's Twitter account here,
Previously,
where we might be able to listen in to some of Dombrowski talking here.
Well, none of those things worked for us. And so really what happened is that 5th spot, that's why it's a little misleading, the record. When you look at the 5th spot that we had, that was not a good spot at all for us the last 2 months of the season. So let's say you add 5 or 6 wins to there, which would be the case. That person, if we acquired them, probably wouldn't have pitched in the postseason for us. So we looked at it saying, okay, we think we're good enough to win our division as we stand. We did think those 3 guys, we'd come up with one of them to pitch well for us. And then also over the last couple of months, Ranger dealt with a lot of little things with them, nothing of major consequence. But all of a sudden, we're not going out there with a consistent 5-man rotation, which I think is very important. And we did earlier in the season. That was successful. So I think that had a large contribution to that.
If I can follow too, I'm just curious, like offensively, were there times where you felt like the group lineup as a whole was too easy to pitch to? Or, I mean, how did you sort of assess sort of the ups and downs that you guys had offensively?
Well, yeah, the unfortunate part, you have a tendency to focus only on your own club, right? This is a downtime from an offensive perspective in professional baseball. What was the average? 243 at the end of the year. Most of our hitters were better than 243. You see the scores in the games in most of the postseason. There's not a lot of run production taking place. So at times we are vulnerable to being pitched well, as are other clubs. But I can't say that like going into the last 2 months of the season that we thought, oh, that was going to be a major issue for us. But it's something we'll look at. We'll take a look at trying to address to see if we can make some changes. Sometimes, you know, we talk about, it's interesting, and I know what theme is chase rate, right? I mean, everybody I read in here writes about chase rate. I think it was interesting, we got eliminated. We were 6th in major of the 12 clubs in chase rate in the postseason. And so that's not good, but it's not the worst. We didn't hit. We really didn't hit. Some of it's chase, some of it's approach, some of it's guys not being hot. We actually, if you looked at it, we chased less than the Mets did in that series, percentage-wise. But at times they got some big hits and we didn't. And so it's something that we're cognizant of. It's something we'll continue to try to address. But the reality is we have a good lineup. I think we were in the top 5 in Major League Baseball in runs scored, and we'll continue to strive to be better. But I also think that you know, a lot of clubs are vulnerable to being pitched well. I mean, our starting pitching really shut down the Mets in the postseason, all in all. Unfortunately, our bullpen picked a bad time to not pitch well, and they had been very good almost all year long, particularly the back end of the guys. So sometimes, you know, when you look at it, there's clubs that win 2-1, 1-0, and we just didn't do that. And then part of that was we didn't score enough runs, but we also, our bullpen did not have a good series.
Okay, go to Tim on the right.
Dave, by old and new school metrics, Trey Turner has really struggled defensively since coming here. Will he remain at shortstop moving forward?
Well, when you say that, his metrics are very similar to what they were before he came here in many ways. So Trey has been, he will be our shortstop, yes. He's going to be our shortstop the coming year. But we also feel that sometimes you have to be careful with some of that, and I'm not sure which metrics you're using, but they're not always 100% the defensive. We put some, we rely on defensive metrics, but there's also not a perfect way of describing the defensive aspects of the game as far as we know. He did not have not an outstanding defensive shortstop. He does have good range. He makes really good plays at times, but he also makes too many errors at points. But he has improved. He's worked hard, and I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to improve despite his age.
Well, in terms of errors, defensive runs saved, outs above average, he has gone in the wrong direction the last couple of years. Why do you think that will change as he ages?
Well, he works hard. I mean, first of all, he's the rare player, and one of the reasons when he signed for a long-term contract, he's very athletic. And so his speed is still very good. He's still one of the fastest guys in baseball, so I don't think you can compare his aging process to, let's say, the average player. But he's a guy that's just very athletic. He works hard. He's got a good infield instructor in Bobby Dickerson. We saw some strides ourselves this year on some things that he improved upon. So that's why I think he'll get better.
Okay. Alex, front row on the left.
Hey, Dave.
Alec?
You mentioned the trade deadline earlier, and I'm wondering just how you would assess the moves that you guys made in general.
Well, we were very happy with the trades that we made at the particular time. I've been in this role before where sometimes you make moves and they turn out great. Other times you make moves and they didn't really turn out as well as you would like. I think in our situation here, I mean, there were really two major acquisitions we made at the trade deadline. Tanner Banks we liked, and Tanner Banks pitched as we would have thought he pitched. We think he helped our bullpen. He's somebody that'll be with us for an extended period. But he's also not a guy that we really acquired with high leverage in mind. So we got Austin Hayes, who we liked a great deal. Unfortunately, Austin Hayes got hurt almost immediately. He got hurt, and then he had the kidney infection. We really never saw a good version of Austin Hayes. So if you judge it on that, that was not very good. Didn't work out well for us. We like Carlos Estevez. He did a good job for us. He was solid. He helped shape our bullpen. I really liked even how he threw in the postseason until he threw the pitch to Lindor. So he was the one guy that threw the ball well before that. So we added the players that we thought we needed to add. Unfortunately, Austin Hayes got hurt, and there's nothing you can do about that.
And when you look at the high leverage relievers, their performance in the bullpen, do you kind of see that as like an aberration, or like what do you kind of make of their outings in particular?
Well, I would think it's more of an aberration, yes. Anytime you see a guy struggle a lot, you get perhaps a little concern. I don't think they were overworked or overtired. And we all are searching for that answer ourselves. I still like our group, our core group of guys going into next year. We like them. Of course, a couple of them are free agents, as you're aware. I'm not sure where that will take us. But we feel very comfortable with Strom from the left-hand side, Alvarado and Banks, and then we like Kerkering. So as high leverage type of guys. I'm really not sure what happened at that point. I was as surprised as anybody, as I think all of us were at that point, because they had pitched efficiently. They have been in the postseason before. They're not young guys. Kerkering was the youngest, but they've had the experience. So I really, that probably surprised me more than anything, because when you have good starting pitching, which we did, sometimes you do win a game. I mean, you look into the first game, you're winning 1-0 going into the 8th. Well, a lot of times in the regular season, we'd win that game. And then we didn't. Our guys just didn't perform very well at that time.
Okay, Anthony, right in the middle.
Yeah, Dave, I have two questions for you. First, about Alec Bohm. How do you look at his season? This started off so well, becomes an all-star, and then has like a slow decline. And then how concerning was it that Rob had to pull him out of the lineup for Game 2 against the Mets?
Sure. Well, Alec Bohm's a good player. I mean, he's starting third baseman for the National League team. I mean, he's a good player. He knocked in 100 or close to 100 runs 2 years in a row. He's one of the top hitters in the league. He's improved defensively. He had an outstanding first half of the season and not an Alec Bohm second half of the season. But he overall is a really good player. He's a good player on the team. You know, anytime, the manager has to make those decisions on what he thinks is the best thing for his club. We knew he was coming off an injury that affected his hand, which makes it more difficult to hit at times. So Rob thought that we needed energy, and that was a move that he was going to make. He went into the game later in the day, into that particular game. So, I mean, those are the things I leave in the manager's hands. I mean, I wish he wasn't in a slump at that time. I wish he was swinging the bat well, but he wasn't. And the manager has to sometimes make moves to try to spark things.
Second question. A year ago at this time, we sat here, and you had some uncertainty about what your outfield was going to look like coming into 24.
Now it might be the same uncertainty still existing, maybe even a little bit more. How do you look at your outfield at this time and how you're going to approach it going into the offseason?
Well, I mean, our outfield, yeah, it's more uncertain than our infield because our infield's basically set at every single position, and catching and a lot of starting pitchers and that. So, I mean, our outfield, all in all, has, I think it's turned out to be very average at the big league level when you look at it. I think we have one guy that plays every day, Castellanos. We like Marsh still. We like him. I think he's a good player. When you look at his numbers overall, he's good. He could play left or he can play center. We like Rojas, but we need offensive improvement there from him. We have a plan this wintertime. He's going to live in Clearwater. We have a plan from an offensive perspective. He's reduced his chase rate. He's still an outstanding defensive center fielder. He can run. But I can't say he's for sure going to be our center fielder. And then we have Hayes, of course. We'll have to make a decision in that regard. So I'm not sure how it will be, but I would think that a couple of guys for sure that are part of that equation are Marsh and Castellanos, and then we take it from there.
Okay, go to Dan right in the middle.
What are you going to do with Taijuan Walker?
Well, Taijuan Walker, he did not have a good year, as we all know, so no need to pound that into it. We have sat down with Taijuan before he left. He was given a very detailed program from a conditioning and throwing perspective. Not that he's in bad condition, but and to get him ready to try to get him back to be the pitcher that he was in the past. He is in a position where I'm convinced he will work hard on that to get it done. I would think he'll come to spring training with us next year, but he's not guaranteed a starting spot. I don't think I can just say, hey, you're our fifth starter. I think he would come to camp and be in a battle to try to win a spot in the rotation.
And last year in the spring,
Interesting.
Like that.
Bryce and Scott Boros.
Good answer on Walker. I'll take that.
Of reworking his contract. Has that been brought up since, and is that something you think will even be on the table this offseason?
So what names did you mention?
Bryce Harper. Scott
Bryce
Boras.
Bryce. Oh, and Scott Boras. Okay,
On your
I didn't
comment
get the
there.
second part. Really, when it comes to, as I've said this all along, contract negotiations, I always keep private. I don't think there's anything to be gained by sharing any type of contract discussions. Yes.
Bro,
or no.
release him.
Devin on the left.
Hi, Dave.
He
So
hasn't
before the NLDS,
said
you
releasing
mentioned
anyone.
the
He's
window,
saying
and
everyone's
if it
gonna
was
be working
closing.
this
You talked about
offseason.
all the young talent that you have coming up. Given, guys like Alec Bohm in the series that they had in the postseason, knowing you have guys like Aiden Miller and Andy Painter kind of waiting in the wings, how does that play into your roster and personnel decisions this offseason?
Well, I do think, and again, that's a
Devin
common
Caney with
question,
that
is your
question.
window over? Well, as I said, we have a very talented group of players, and we have some veteran players, and we have that group of guys in the middle now with the Bohm and the Marshes and the Stotts and the Sanchez's, that group. And then we have some young players also coming. There's a little bit, I don't think, well, Aiden Miller, I don't
Forgot my
anticipate
sweet
being ready
baby
this coming
boy.
year.
Uh-oh.
Crawford is coming very fast. I'm not sure that when we go into spring training, we're not going to count on him being one of our big league starting outfielders, but he's a lot of ability. Wouldn't surprise me if he came in any time. Andy Painter is another whole different situation. He threw for the first time the other day. He is a very, very talented individual, and it's apparent he's healthy, and he'll get a limited number of innings in the Arizona Fall League, and then be in a position where we're going to have to make a determination how we're going to use his innings next year, because he's not going to be a guy that we can throw out and count on pitching 180 innings at the major league level. But I think with those veteran players, we're not at a position where they're still not productive. I think they're productive at this time. You're always concerned as players age, the aging curve. But I don't think the window is closed as far as the Philadelphia Phillies are concerned. I do think that
I think they call him Andy
close
Philly Boy.
windows when some guys
I'm gonna keep calling him
age,
Andrew for
and
now.
some of them are not part of your next step. But we're in a position where we have some good young players, and we have some other good young players in the organization too. The farm system's come on a great deal. Brian Barber and Preston Mattingly and Jorge Volandi are leading the different groups that we have. And so it'll be a matter of moving people in. And we also have an owner who's been very generous to us, and I think will continue to do that. So I think the Phillies have a window to be a good club for years to come. Will all of these players be part of it? Most likely not.
Okay, let's go to Corey on the left.
All right.
Dave,
well,
you
Jamie
mentioned
will
that,
keep watching,
Dave, you mentioned the chase
keep
rate. You guys were
updating
middle of
while
the
we
pack.
take a quick pause because there's a lot there that
we'll
Dave
circle right
Dombrowski
back on that.
mentioned. We will come back to more. Rob Thomson, of course, is going to speak as well. So we get to live look in with you guys. But first, let's just handle some business here on PHLY Phillies because we are presented this Red October, this postseason, this playoffs, we are presented by Ace Hardware Home Services. So if you've got a leaky pipe, maybe you're dealing with any electrical issues, plumbing, air conditioning issues, whatever's going on, heating issues in your house, Ace Hardware Home Services has the professionals that can help you with that at any time. Whenever, wherever, they're ready to get the job done. They always know what to bring, and they're going to make sure to get you the experienced staff that's got decades of experience, knowledgeable. They're local plumbers and techs that handle everything from repairs to seasonal maintenance to installations as well as upgrades. And also with Ace Hardware, you get free estimates on any equipment installation and replacement with those trusted advisors. They also have emergency services available that can help whenever you need. So with Ace Hardware Home Services, they also want to make sure they're providing you the best options suited for your home and your budget. Two key factors, what works best for you and what works best for your pockets. And with that wide range of services they provide, you can take advantage of them, of checking them out today, because whether you're walking in the doors of their buildings at Ace Hardware in person or checking them out online, they always want to make sure you're getting the support you need, the advice, and the professional advice as well. So visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at www.acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project. Again, a wide range of projects they can help you with to take the stress out of any repairs or any last-minute repairs or issues you may have. Again, that's acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started today.
And I've used this product a couple times this summer. Now we're transitioning into fall, and it's Z-Biotics. And right now, you can get 15% off with the code PHLY Phillies. It's a game-changing product. Look, I'm a man. I'm 40. I've got young kids. They wake me up early. I don't bounce back the same way I used to after a night out with my wife or with friends and family at a party on that rare parents' night out. I use it before I go out and have drinks. It's called pre-alcohol. And, you know, you just don't bounce back the same way you used to. And with the young kids, you got to be on your game. So let me tell you, there's a surefire way to wake up feeling fresh after a night of drinking, and it's with pre-alcohol. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol prebiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by these really smart people. They're PhD scientists, and they wanted to tackle the rough mornings after drinking. So when you drink, your alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut, and it's that byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. I kept hearing about pre-alcohol and wondered what it was actually like. Now that I've tried it, I believe the hype. With their GMO technology, they will release different products that help address toxic byproducts of modern living in the gut. So go to zbiotics.com/PHLY Phillies to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use code PHLY Phillies at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in here on PHLY Phillies podcast as we are live watching the updates from Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thomson. Just had to handle some business. Let's get ready to get back into what's being said by Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thomson because they're giving us some great updates on thoughts, where the team is, what their expectations are for this offseason. So I know we'll share our actual
Apparently
reactions.
the last thing he just said is I have no indication that that we won't be aggressive and have a higher payroll. So that should be music to a lot of Phillies fans' ears. So let's hear what he's got to say.
Yeah, definitely interesting.
For us. So we'll explore that. But I think it really comes down to an open-mindedness of conversations and see where that takes you.
Okay, Dave, you're in the front.
Hey, Dave, you've already touched on Trey's fielding, his athleticism, his acknowledgement of chasing and getting themselves out. I guess overall speaking, what gives you the confidence, and I know he was an all-star and a starter, that he can deliver at a high level in key spots at times in October for the remaining 9 years of that deal?
Great
Well, I'm not
question.
going to talk 9 because that's a long way out, but I'll talk the immediate future.
Dave, you ran.
He's a good player. You know, I mean, he's got a lot of talent. He's a very, as you said, he's an individual. He's very smart. I think he'll make some adjustments himself. So I just think that he's a good player that sometimes in a short series, guys have a good series, sometimes they don't. But with the talents that he has, I don't see why he cannot have a good postseason.
Okay, go to Ty on the left.
Hi, Dave. You just mentioned maybe JT resting more going forward. He's, played a lot of games compared to other catchers. What might go into a plan to kind of get him more rest and off his feet more? And do you feel like the current group of reserve catchers
He's gotta stay healthy.
is strong enough to kind of be able
That's
to
the
handle that
plan.
and step
Rafael
in a
Marchand
bigger
is
role?
healthy and can play baseball.
Well, you know,
And
first
he's
of all,
better than
Rob
Garrett
Thompson will
Stubbs.
have
Next.
to sit down and talk to him a little bit more.
He's gotta
it's
stay
gonna be one
healthy.
That we just
But yes.
ourselves, though, have said that. We have some guys that we are capable of doing that, but it's hard to play once 8 days or 6 games or something and produce from an offensive perspective. Defensively, we've done very well. I don't have any concerns about that. Stubbs has been solid in that regard, but that's a tough job for a guy to just play every, whatever it is, 6, 8 games. We like Marchand a lot. We think he's a real good catcher, and he's shown some offensive prowess also. He is out of options for next year. One of the things with Marchand we have to do is, it's been unfortunate, he's had a lot of injuries, but when he's played very well. So I think we have some people capable of doing that internally, but I can't tell you that they'll be for
HGH
sure given
program.
the job. We just have to keep an open mind.
I am
as we
concerned
explore
about
that
his
this
injuries, but
wintertime.
I like him better than Garrett Stubbs.
To the front right.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave. I know you mentioned Andrew Painter. Obviously, he's not
A
going to
lot
throw
of just
180
working
innings
on
next
things in the
year,
offseason.
but
See if he
and
calls him
what
Andy
role
again.
do you envision
I heard him
for
say Andy
for
before.
2025, and how soon
Well,
do you think
the
he can
journalist
get
said
into that
Andrew.
role?
Yeah.
Well, he's going to be a starting pitcher. I don't think there's any question about that. Now he has to earn a starting position with the big league club whenever it gets to that point. It's just the rust is just coming off. It's like the other day he was throwing great. He gave up 2 runs, which is very unusual for him. He doesn't usually ever even give up 2 runs, but he'll get better and better and better as he goes out there. So the rust will come off. The main thing we want to make sure is that he's healthy. He knows he's healthy. He's ready to go into spring training. Where I don't know is because we need to figure out how many innings we feel comfortable for him to pitch next year. And then we need to have a plan in that regards. Does he pitch at the minor league level for a while and then come up? Does he pitch 2 or 3 innings in the beginning and then have more innings at the back end of the year? Does he have a consistent number of innings all year long? Pittsburgh, I read what they did with Skeens. He talked about how happy he was with his situation. He started in the minors, but he wasn't coming off an injury either. So all of those are factors, and I don't know the answers at this time. Those will be things that we talk about leading into spring training next year.
I imagine they'd ease him in. There's no need to rush him too much too soon at the major league level.
He's probably
Hey,
got
Dave,
like
you
an
mentioned
8,500 inning cap
that other
at
kind of
most.
bucket
Yeah.
of prospects that you have.
Definitely,
outside
especially
of,
in the beginning.
Miller and Crawford, Kemp, Racones. I mean, you have a few guys down there, college guys. Any of those players, guys who you think are close enough to getting a shot next year that you would factor
That's a
them
thing.
into
I don't-
how you approach the offseason?
Well, I
know
don't
if
think
there
they're
are.
guys that we're going to say they're for sure with a spot on the team. I think they're guys that if they come to big league spring training, which I would guess that they would, haven't made those decisions either. They're talented enough that they could do that. Unfortunately, Rincones is
Marcia
a guy who
finalist
got
for
hurt
Gold
a
Glove,
lot,
too.
So he didn't have a full year.
Wow.
If he would have had a full year, the answer to that would probably be
Heck.
yes. But he's also a very talented guy with some power. He can swing the bat. He's playing in the Arizona Fall League, so we'll end up seeing how he continues to progress. Kemp's a guy that he's really come
Marsh,
out
but not
of
Nick.
nowhere in many ways. So he's a guy that could come to camp and surprise. But I don't think that we're counting on them to be part of our opening day roster in 25.
And then Turner, if you look at his fly ball rate has kind of spiked a little bit here lately, and the line drive rate is down, especially when you compare it to his MVP kind of season. Are there things you see in his swing that you think maybe an off season can
How
get
do you
back
fix
to
him,
being
Dave?
more of a line drive type of guy?
I think so. I do think so. Kevin Long has talked a lot about that. Rob Thompson, we've talked a lot about it already. And I think that we're not looking for Trey to have to hit the ball in the ballpark on a consistent basis. We're just not. and sometimes but he can, as you can see, he's got tremendous power. But I think the value of him, and when we talk about the lineup and different things, well, sometimes it's approaches too. Turner's approach, really, we're much more comfortable if he's more of a line drive doubles hitter that hits the ball at the ballpark some. I'll give you another example is Bryson Stott. I mean, for us, Bryson Stott should be an on-base type of guy.
Yeah.
He's a guy that we're not looking to hit 20 home runs. He's a guy that can work the count. He has a good eye, although he didn't show it this year.
He
So
was
we
the
think
biggest
that Stott
regression.
can
He
come
was
back
the
and do
toughest
that.
part for me.
So that gives you a little more
offensively.
balance of all of a sudden if Turner and Stott doing more of that. And I think some of that can be internal for us. And they're important parts of our ball club in that regard.
So what are they doing to
Mike
fix?
on the right.
He hasn't answered yet what
Dave,
they're
when you
doing to
look
actually
at
fix.
upgrading the roster in,
They
in
just
some
keep
spots,
saying they have a plan.
what type of player do you think this team needs, or what type of skill set?
Yeah, like what are you looking to
Somebody to
add?
protect
guys
Bryce Harper in the
looking for
lineup.
in upgrades?
Well, I don't.
Say
That's
it.
that's a general question. That's a
Say
really
it.
tough one to answer because you just have to wait and see when you talk to people. You're
Oh,
looking
brother.
to make your club better. You're not looking to be in a position to just change faces. So I think you're in a
Hate
position
that
where we
answer.
just. It depends upon who's available and how.
Pretty sure we
weigh
want
that
some different
and
faces
how
in
they
here,
We need
Dave.
some new faces, Dave. Catch on.
into your club. So, I mean, the way I would answer that question, we want championship players. Now, describe that. Well, there's a lot that goes into that, and I think that that's how we approach it.
It's fluff. This is fluff.
Todd on the left.
People keep asking about Trey
when you
for a
guys signed
reason
Zach
and
to the
asking about
extension
some
in
of these
March,
players.
a lot of questions asked about future payrolls, and John was asked about, can you guys possibly acquire more star players? He said, I think there's a way to do it if it becomes a necessity. I'm
Look at
wondering,
you, recognizing.
do you think it's a
voices.
necessity to acquire a star player this offseason to get you over the top? And
Good question.
regardless, are there paths to do it either through trade capital or other moves you can make to maybe get yourself in the
Come on,
running for a
Dave.
star
Give us a
player?
good answer here.
Well, I don't think we need to add more star players. We have as many stars as about anybody in baseball. So I don't think necessarily that you need to add more, and I think you have to be a little concerned. I mean, John is very accommodating and giving, but you're also in a position where you're still working with the payroll and trying to make things work for you and go into the future what you have. And yeah, I mean, would you be open to it? Yes, but I think you have to be careful because sometimes it's not only the star players, it's also sometimes the supporting cast. And when you look at it, again, we had 8 all-stars, right? I know they're not all veteran guys, but that's more than anybody in baseball. We have, when you look at our starting rotation, I don't know that of the top 4, there's a better starting rotation in baseball. When you look at some of the positional players, they're really good. So I don't necessarily think that the answer is always a star player. I'm not saying we won't get one, but I don't think it's a necessity by any means.
And then Hoffman and Estevez
So no
are
Juan
both
Soto.
free agents. Do you see yourself signing
That's
one of
not
them?
happening.
Is it unlikely that you could bring back both, knowing where you are right now with payroll?
Well, you never know with payroll because you don't know what other adjustments and changes that you end up making. We'd like to have, we like them both. It's hard for me to imagine that you end up bringing them both back under the circumstances because I would gather they're both
Was
going
Hoffman
to
and
get
who?
offered long-term
Estevez?
big dollar contracts, which they're going to be looking for. I don't see us spending that type of money on 2 relievers in our bullpen, but I'm just not
Because
sure at
they're
this
both
time.
free
But we like
agents.
them both.
And then one last one. Is it important for you to extend Ranger? Is that something you probably would wait and see?
My
how it
baby
goes
boy.
next season?
Finally,
Well,
a
we
Ranger
like Ranger a
question.
lot. I mean, understandably so. And we liked
Yeah.
the Ranger the first half of the season better than the
No
second
ass.
half. He didn't have his, and then there was a lot that was involved in that from his own perspective. But he's a good pitcher. And we're all very open-minded to having Ranger in the organization for a long time.
Alex in the front.
That's a
You
kind of a
mentioned
weird
upgrading
answer.
the 5th starter spot. Given the uncertainty,
Open-minded
of
to have him in the
when Painter
rotation
would
for a
be
long
ready to
time.
come into the rotation,
Open-minded?
How do you navigate that? Does that make it a little bit more difficult
Didn't love that.
to upgrade that spot?
Yeah, perhaps. But, I mean, those are things we have to figure out, really. I don't have that answer at this time with the season just ending, Painter just pitching. So, yeah, I mean, it does make it a more difficult chore in the sense that you're not sure when he's going to come back. Do you sign if you sign somebody, they're looking for a chance to get the ball on an everyday basis. There's some complexities in it, but nothing that's insurmountable.
And you mentioned Walker's going to be doing an off-season program. Is it going to be what he was working on during his rehab stint, like the weighted ball stuff, or is it going to be something different?
Well, it's a continuation of that plus more. Yes.
HGH.
You were quoted as saying, regarding the playoff format, is that you would prefer to play in the wild card if you could guarantee you could come through it healthy. Would you like to see the playoff format tweaked in any way?
Well, let's take this time to
Well,
actually
I don't have a good answer.
step aside.
I mean, you can ask that.
I don't want
and
to talk playoff
No
format,
matter
do
how
we?
you
I'm
face
kinda
it,
interested
right?
in his answer.
I'm not.
There's always challenges. Well, unfortunately, when you look
Well,
at
after
it,
this.
the challenge of having the bye, we're the only one that didn't come through it, right? So the other three clubs ended up overcoming that this year. And I think that, if you talk to, so you can do that. I'd rather make sure you're going to the second round, however you do that. If you talk to Baltimore, if you talk to Houston, those type of clubs, I'm sure they would have not wanted to play that divisional series because they lost. There's a lot of different thoughts and ideas. We've talked about this since it first was indoctrinated way back when the original wild card came into play. There's a lot of different ideas. I don't have a solution that solves the problem, unfortunately, when you have it. But the other thing is that, hey, we had a chance to get it done and we didn't with it. So the other clubs did.
I was, you never know. He might have said, I hate it. I hope it burns in hell.
What I
But
hate
he
is
didn't.
flopping in the postseason. But let's tell you about something that can make sure to have you protected so you can have all the fun once you get into the fall season. When it comes to fall season, you want to make sure that you're ready to go and you're healthy and you're bringing your A game, because you don't want to have anything that's holding you back from being able to enjoy this special moment. It's the holiday season, guys. We're talking Halloween, Thanksgiving. We're also, this is that time where you're out at farms and festivals. Plus, sports-wise, you're going to more games, football games, soccer games, basketball is getting going. Hockey started, baseball playoffs. Whatever you're looking to attend, you want to be healthy to be there. And so over at Rite Aid, you can take advantage of what they have available with their vaccines, their flu shots, because the CDC does recommend getting a flu shot every year. A person's immune system is constantly evolving, but so is the flu. And so with the vaccine every year, you're keeping up to date on the latest. Also, according to the CDC, for children, if they get a flu vaccine, it does decrease their chances of a life-threatening version of the flu by 75%. There are a lot of benefits to getting your flu shot. And this fall season, make sure you're taking advantage of that chance to be healthy, to make sure that you're getting all the little things taken care of. And over at Rite Aid, you can walk right in, or you can schedule an appointment online. They've got options for you. They do have some walk-ins available. Personally, I always like to walk in to get my vaccines from Rite Aid because it's a lot quicker than trying to schedule a doctor's appointment or anything else. And you're going to get great quality service, professionals that are trained and know what they're doing. Get in, get out, feel good, knowing that you took care of getting that flu shot and other vaccines. So whether you're looking to get your flu shot, whether you're looking to go in and get your fall allergy medication, anything that you need from Rite Aid, they've got all the over-the-counter options for you. They've got the different aisles. It's all the convenience that at the pharmacy you can stock up on cough, flu, and allergy essentials. They always have what you need to get you through the season. So just walk into your local Rite Aid or schedule at riteaid.com. State, age, and health restrictions may apply. And ask your Rite Aid pharmacist for details today over at Rite Aid.
I'm just over here researching Justin Crawford's birth date. But anyway, I'm going to be thinking about some Miller Lights I'll be having this weekend. By the way, Justin Crawford will be 21 and eligible to enjoy some cold, delicious Miller Lights this January. So happy 21st birthday upcoming to Justin Crawford. Maybe you make spring training camp and you can go out and have a cold, refreshing Miller Lite after hanging out with the guys, playing some ball. When friends and family are around, whether you're going to a pumpkin festival or going up to the mountains or going for a hike or just being with friends and family and having a good time, a Miller Lite always hits the spot. It's the original light beer since 1975, and to this day, it's still the best one. Why? Their formula is quite simple. It's a light beer that tastes like a light beer should taste. They left out everything you don't need. They held on to what matters most. And what it is a less filling, great tasting light beer. The original since 1975 and still the best one. And it's only 96 calories per 12 ounces. So it's just great. You're not going to get that bloated feeling. I'm going to be out at a golf tournament on Monday. I'm going to say, Miller Lights, please, because it's a perfect golf compliment for you. So you don't have to choose What's best? Miller Lite has great taste and is less filling. Tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/PHLY Phillies, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces, fewer calories and carbs than regular premium beer.
All right. Well, you are tuned into PHLY Phillies presented by Ace Hardware Home Services. This press conference is taking a little bit longer than I expected. Dave's got a lot of questions coming his way. We're live watching the press conference as Dave Dombrowski is giving his post-end of season, I should say, thoughts. And then Rob Thompson's going to be speaking afterwards. Some interesting takeaways early. The biggest thing I'm getting so far is everyone this offseason just going to work to get better, is what I keep hearing.
I thought the question about Crawford there, well, not just Crawford specifically, it was about Miller, Crawford, and Painter.
Yeah.
He didn't rule out Justin Crawford possibly getting invited to spring training. That's why I was looking up his birthday. I was like, is this really too soon? And it could be. 21 would be young. But the fact that he's got a chance to make camp is kind of cool. That would give me some excitement.
Yeah, and I think
because I'm at the point where I'm like, F it, youth movement.
I was actually going to say the same thing. To invite someone into spring training, what's the worst that happens? Yeah. See what they can do. Justin Crawford's been showing a lot of good flashes of his center field play. His offense has been improving. He has the speed. He's great stealing bags.
He's clearly not thrilled with Rojas.
Ground. Right. Well,
that I thought was like one of his more. Him and Walker were the two most kind of like Dave. Damning, nice comments. Like, he's not going to say, oh, yeah, we're releasing Taijuan Walker. He sucks. They're going to say, we're going to give him a chance and blah, blah, blah. But he didn't guarantee him a spot. He says he has to come earn his spot. And with Johan Rojas, it was certainly like, well, Marsh and Castellanos are probably your two. And then the rest is up for grabs.
Yeah,
so, he said Rojas needs to add some offense. I thought that was a pretty good answer there. I've liked most of what I've heard. I didn't like the kind of just massaging of the chase rate and all that in the beginning.
Yeah, I don't like saying, oh, we weren't the worst chase rate around Major League Baseball. Okay, that doesn't mean it's a good thing. And to your point, for someone like Johan Rojas, we've got plans for him this winter. Those plans could be that he's not on this team anymore. But it is interesting because I was surprised by him saying, Marsh and Castellanos are essentially two they really trust as outfielders, and the rest they're going to figure. It seems like they're going to figure out. Austin Hayes said we're going to make a decision with him. He's kind of he's teasing out that
there was some wording in the Austin Hayes.
Yeah, when you say plans for him or making a decision, it doesn't ultimately mean here. That could be happening somewhere else. Not to read between the lines too much, but also as you mentioned, we know he has been a little bit. His word choicing is very direct. And you even hear him kind of pausing and resetting. Same thing with Ranger Suarez, open-minded to me means anything's possible with Ranger Suarez and what happens with him in the future. So they're open-minded to it.
Yeah, some of the word, you said the wording stuck out to me. Let me see what I wrote down when he was talking about Hayes. We liked Hayes a great deal. We never saw a good version of Hayes. He got hurt and then had the kidney infection, which wasn't great for us. Estevez did a nice job for us, as Ed Wright pointed out in the comments. 14 earned runs in 23 innings. I don't know if you consider that great, but if you take away the grand slam, maybe it's only 10. But you can't take away the grand slam because that happened. So I don't know. I didn't love his answers about his weak trade deadline.
Well, the other part of that, the trade deadline comments I didn't like at all from him about at the time we thought they were good moves, and it's no, they weren't good moves because when those trade deadline acquisitions needed to manifest themselves most, they did not. And then he did mention Hoffman and Estevez, who are both free agents this winter.
Not both coming back.
Basically, both are not coming back. It's hard to imagine bringing them both back, is what he said. So
I would imagine Hoffman's the guy.
You like them both. You never know with payroll. So someone's coming back, someone's not. Now the question is, who do they like more? But also, I think if
Hoffman.
It sounds like a lot of payroll is a factor of the financial.
Well, he did mention we don't know what we're shedding and moving on from. So he left that
it could come
open.
down to money. It could come down to who can they get for the best deal that makes sense for both parties, and then even just roster upgrades. Needing to wait to see the club's going to be better. You want championship players, but not necessarily need to bring in a star.
He's still talking. Should we peek back in?
I think so. I mean, this has taken way longer than I thought. This should have been a 2-hour live show.
I know, right?
Let's hear back from what Dave Dombrowski is saying. We might not get to Rob live on the show today.
I agree with Barbara Carroll. I think Emilio Estevez is definitely gone. I think Hoffman's the guy they're going to try and save. I mean, it's a lot more equity as with the team. It's 2 years compared to like 2 months.
It is. And I know John Peace, nobody asked, we didn't get directly a Juan Soto specific question, but it was asked if they would bring in stars. And he was saying we don't need to add more stars. We had 8 all-stars this season. Nobody has a better top 4 starting pitching rotation. They're open to it, but they've got to work with payroll. And they have to be
agree with
careful.
him to a degree there. Like, I do
feel like you don't have to just bring in the most expensive or biggest name players.
But I mean, would I love Juan Soto? Yeah, of course. But like, they do need some supplemental. Oh, Dave Dombrowski just got up, so that's over. Rob,
Oh, okay.
Maybe we can catch the first 5 minutes of Rob. I kind of agree with them though on the star statement. Like everybody's gonna get real baseball horny for Juan Soto, and I totally get it because Juan Soto is awesome. But this team needs like 7, 8, 9 hitters.
Yeah,
and if you get somebody that can protect Bryce Harper, then your Bohms and Castellanos and Stotts can slide down and make the bottom of your order better. So they're like an Anthony Santander. Like, is he considered a star?
Yeah.
Money-wise, he'll get star-ish money, but he's not like he's a baseball nerd household name, but not like a household name. Like, I don't know. Do you consider him a star? He can put the ball over the fence. That's pretty cool. But like, they might view him as not a star. And somebody that could be added, that gives you protection, that drops guys down in the order into more natural spots. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. He certainly left it open.
Well, someone that is supposed to be a star on this team, and I agree with you. I'm not one that, and I've said this before. I even said this about the Dodgers. I've said this many times. I don't think you have to have the flashiest big name players to win championships.
No,
I think you actually need the opposite. A good balance and mixture of
you have those
superstars and those role players. And I do think what they're missing is not only the role players, but some of their stars did not show up. I know there were multiple questions about Trey Turner, and I don't like some of his answers about Trey. He was mentioning they're not looking for him to be that consistent home run hitter. Said the same thing about Bryson Stott. I do agree with that. It's about his approach. It's about, the line drives. The line drives. But also, you can't compare his aging process to others. He does work hard, and he's got a lot of talent, and I don't see why he won't be able to have a good postseason. I know someone in the chat, I think it was Ed Wright earlier, was saying like his batting average in the postseason with the Phillies has not been good. So he was like, there's nothing that makes me think that we're not like moving forward, he won't give us a good postseason production. I think it's the opposite. We haven't seen him give us a good, this postseason wasn't good for Trey Turner. So what do we have to go off of? And in a small sample size so far, his postseason between last year and this year, not really what you expected from a $300 million guy. So he will make adjustments himself. Trey will make his own adjustments. That's that veteran aspect, yes. But
I think the one thing he did say, which I think is more than fair, and I think moving Trey Turner positionally, like there's a lot. This conversation's gaining steam. Like, send him to center field. He's done it before. Send him to left field. He is a worse outfielder than he is a shortstop.
He's a bad shortstop.
He eventually will be an outfielder, most likely for this team in a couple years. It just doesn't make sense right now. You don't have, there are free agents if you move at second and short where you could play that Jenga, but like now is not the realistic option for that. He's not going to be playing outfield for you next year. You're just creating yourself the worst defensive positions at left field and shortstop. So like it just doesn't make sense right now. But I know some questions were asked about it. I see the conversation a lot, whether it be in our Discord and the comments. I do not think it makes any sense to move Trey Turner to the outfield. ... Yet.
Yeah, I mean it's tough when he had 23 errors last season and had 17 this season and 35 less games. We all can see the struggles at shortstop for him, but as you mentioned, it's not an immediate fix. With him with so many years left on his contract, it's going to take time. All right, so Rob is joined to the podium. He's got the slicked back hair going on today.
Yeah?
He's wearing a similar outfit to me.
Manager
He's actually
anymore.
wearing a similar outfit to me. We're both rocking the vest.
You think he's a Hallmark guy? I bet he is.
Oh, he definitely is giving Hallmark
Canadians
vibes
love
right now.
Hallmark Channel.
He's got the classic Canadian vest. Let's see what Rob's got to say. He's on the mic now.
It'd be funny if he came out in like the Rick Moranis, like Canadian, a hunter's hat and vest. Hi, Rob.
He's got to win a job.
And thank you to NBC Sports Phillies Twitter account for letting us air this.
Knowing Todd, he's going to give his best effort to get this thing done. And I think during the season when we put him on this program, he was making strides. We had to cut the program off a little bit short because we needed him. I think if with the entire offseason, I think we'll see more of an improvement. That's what I'm hoping.
Go to Scott on the left.
Hey, Rob, when you think about your offense and the profile of the offense as a whole, does it need to change a little bit? Did they maybe become a little too easy to pitch to throughout the course of the year? How do you sort of view how the offense profiles just in general?
Yeah, I think, and I've spoken to it many times, I think we really have to get them to buy into using the entire field. I think that will, and I know everybody talks about chase rate. I think just doing that will cut down on chase rate because you're going to stay on the ball a little bit longer, and you're going to, you watch the playoff series.
It's a good answer.
The Yankees game. I just pulled up. I didn't watch the game, but I pulled up all their base hits. Everything was from gap to gap last night. And
bingo.
If you do that, you have a chance to cover all pitches in any zone, and you're not going to be susceptible to the off-speed away, especially. So I think, again, it'll cut down on chase, and you have a better chance to get base hits. These guys are so strong, our power guys. They can hit the ball out of any part of the ballpark. They just have to be able to stay on the ball.
So, I mean, obviously you'll coach them up a little bit to do that sort of thing, but does the mix need to change at all? I mean, do you have the personnel to hit the ball, to use the field the way you want to consistently?
Oh, I think so. I really do. You take the young guys, Bohm, Stott, Marsh. They all have the ability to hit the ball the other way. Harper obviously does. Castellanos, when he's at his best, he's hitting the ball the other way. We got to get Trey, and Trey knows that that's the way what his approach needs to be. We just have to make sure that we can help him in every way to get that done. And it's nothing that Kevin and the other hitting coaches haven't been pushing. We just have to get them to buy in and come up with a plan for them.
Todd on the left.
Rob, now the last two postseason series offensively have not gone well. Wondering why you think
buy-in and a
the
plan.
message that Kevin
The buy-in's interesting.
Buy-in, he said that a couple times now.
At least
I don't like that
players
term.
in terms of why you wanted them to come back.
Why wouldn't there be buy-in?
With Kevin?
Yeah, with Kevin.
Because they're rich
I think
veterans.
if you go around baseball and you talk to every
not buying
baseball
in
person,
you're
and
losing.
say, okay, give me your top 5 hitting coaches in baseball. He's going to be on almost every list, and he's going to be number 1 on a lot of lists. I think, it's a random game. People get sped up. We got to be able to slow them down. And even if they have the opposite field approach, still they get sped up at times. We have to make sure that they're doing little things, pass baton, trust your teammates, keep the line moving.
Is it realistic to expect these guys to go into the offseason and make changes? In other words, like maybe this is just kind of who they are offensively, and no matter how much you talk about using the whole field and gap to gap, that these just aren't the guys that can do that?
Well, I think to a man we've seen at times all of them being able to use the field. So I think that they need to take that approach a little bit more, and I think they can do it.
Okay, go to Dave right in the front.
I recognize, Rob, that we're almost a week removed from Game 4, but to go back to Game 4, what was the reason that Zach didn't have a role other than emergency pitcher in extra innings?
How about
Why wasn't
Sanchez?
he used
Yeah,
in
Sanchez
the
is a
sixth
better
to maybe
question.
give you a couple of innings, and I
'Cause
guess
you
by
needed
extension,
Zach in case there's a
Christopher
Game 5.
Sanchez as well.
Well,
Dave threw in
Zach's
Sanchez
working
again.
on 3 days rest, and Sanchez working on 2 days rest. So I'm not gonna put their future in doubt with this franchise. I just won't. I was a little more. It was Sanchez's bullpen day. Zach had thrown a bullpen the day before, getting ready for Game 5. So I was a little bit. Sanchez was a little bit more available to me than Zach was.
Interesting.
Now we get into that game and we get into leverage situations late in games coming out of the bullpen. Sanchez hasn't done that all year, so that's why I stuck with our main relievers who had been very good all year. It just for whatever reason, it just didn't happen in the postseason. So that's where I'm at with that.
And I know you expressed last week that the window is certainly not closed on this ball club, but after finishing further away from a world championship for 2 consecutive seasons after 22, why should fans believe that next season this club can make a deep run?
Good question, Ram.
I like this question.
Well, I think just because of the core. I mean, we have a good ball club. This is the roster is a championship roster. It really is. Dave and the front office have done a great job. Now, we haven't gotten it done. I haven't gotten it done. Do we make some tweaks for next year? Do we, we've already talked about it. Do we turn the lineup around or move people around to possibly get a more consistent offense? I don't know. We got to talk about it. At the start of the season, do we give more guys more days off? And I'm not just talking JT or 1 or 2. I'm talking about everybody. Just so that maybe, was it fatigue that set in July? Maybe by giving guys an extra day off here and there early, we can extend that run a little bit longer and right into October.
I like that.
It definitely looked like they hit a wall.
Hey,
We
Rob,
talked about that.
Obviously, this year there was a big
Fatigue
concern
absolutely
about
set
Marsh
in for
and
a number of
Stott
guys.
hitting lefties. Do you still think those guys can become good hitters against left-handed pitchers, or do you kind of go into next year thinking you might have to platoon, keep platooning those guys?
I think the performance of Marsh the last month, 6 weeks against lefties showed me a lot. I think he changed his approach. At the start of the season, he started off very well, and then I think he may have gotten a little pull happy. And then he got back to hitting the ball the other way and thinking the other way anyway. And I think that really helped him against left-handed pitching. And so it gives me a little bit of confidence that has that ability. And I think Stott has always had that ability. I just think Stott's swing changed a little bit during the course of the year. He's got to get back to who he is, and that's grinding out pitchers, seeing a lot of pitches, using the other field, hitting line drives. We don't expect him to hit 25 home runs. He's going to run into some, but we need to get him on base and chew up pitches for the rest of the lineup.
Go to Alex in the front.
All right. Well, Rob Thomson will continue talking more as our show is getting ready to wrap up. So if you guys, in a few minutes, don't do it now, want to pop over and watch the rest of Rob Thompson's media availability, you're more than welcome to do so on NBC Sports Philadelphia, as that's where we were watching it live with you on their Twitter at NBC Sports Philadelphia. So for
Buy in. Are you going to buy in?
for the thing, there's a couple things here. Rob, you can always tell the jargon is the same. Like even him saying we don't expect Bryson Stott to hit 25 pitches. I think Dave Dombrowski literally used the exact same number.
25 pitches. He's
25 home runs. I'm sorry.
if he's not hitting 25 pitches next year, we got a bigger issue.
Thank you, because somebody will be like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. We don't expect him to hit 25 home runs. Dave literally said almost the exact same number.
No,
Those
I
are
don't
that
either.
same. You're in the same conversation so much.
But I'd love him to be a
but I would love
285
him.
hitter.
Correct.
And an on base,
I
don't
love,
know.
and I know
340,
Barbara and different
345.
people were in the chat. And I'd love for you guys to share your thoughts so far on what we've heard. Obviously, again, we're going to get more from Rob. I don't love what they've said so far because it just sounds a lot like we really trust this core, we trust this roster, but we need more buy-in. And the buy-in is concerning to me. Why wouldn't guys be bought in for this team if you're giving them tweaks and adjustments to help win games? What other buy-in is missing?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't love the use of buy-in, but I did like a lot of the answers, to be honest with you. I guess the buy-in to me, I don't know if this is right, makes me think of vets not changing enough and believing that what got them to this point will carry them out of, whether it be fatigue or slumps or whatever. That's what makes me think of. I don't know if that's true or not, but it makes me think of vets. Because I'd find it hard to believe if Stott and Marsh and Bohm and Rojas, maybe they're incapable of it. It's not letting them off the hook. But I would find it hard to believe that they wouldn't buy in. You know what I mean? Like these are guys that are striving for bigger contracts in Major League Baseball. They haven't gotten their huge paydays yet. I know Bohm could make $9 million this year, which is sweet. But like they're striving to get to that level that Schwarber, Harper, Turner,
Right.
Castellanos, JT, all those guys are at. So that's what makes me think veteran when they say buy-in. Now it could be just, dumb youth being naive and not buying in, but makes me think of the vets there.
Yeah,
but
well,
the other thing, real quick, they're
Hold on,
not
actually.
gonna come out and say we're moving on from so and so or we're moving this person. So they're gonna back everybody at the podium. It doesn't mean anything.
I do want to first say thank you to our diehards that are tuned in on Roku. Make sure you head over to our website to check out more and finish out the rest of the show. We have a couple minutes we're going to go over just to recap our thoughts so far. But thank you to our diehards. And to your point, though, I want to let you finish because I just wanted to get that nugget.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't like the word buy-in either because that does make me think veterans.
You think
that
vets
makes
too?
me think veterans. Buy-in to me is belief in the bigger team philosophies, tactically what you're looking to tweak, any adjustments you're making. And we've talked about it so many times with these veterans being older and experienced that it does take a lot. They're not going to change. And so if they're not
If your
bought
youth
in,
isn't buying in, get rid of them.
right,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
But if your veterans and your core players aren't bought in, that's a problem. Now, that also makes sense to me because this team, what we might be seeing as a bit of lack of energy is this stubbornness that we're seeing, chase rate and, just how
But the
they've
chase
been,
rate wasn't the worst, Renee.
It wasn't the worst in Major League Baseball. The lack of discipline at the plate, is
But I
that
liked
now
Rob-
stubbornness that we're seeing that
Yeah,
I'm
it could be.
wondering?
I mean,
Because
that's what
that
makes
actually
me
makes sense
think.
to me. The way they act, and I know you guys have said it in the chat so much about wanting to get gritty players that have more passion. When I look back on this season, especially the second half of the season and the playoffs, what appeared as complacency, if it's not buy-in, those two things are very similar. Someone that's complacent also could be someone that doesn't have the buy-in to want to either care or just like stubborn in their own ways and not going to change because this team back-to-back postseasons now, that's the same issues.
What makes me think of stubbornness, like the word you just used, and this might not be fair, and you guys can tell me if this isn't fair, but Gabe, and I'm going to go back to the Gabe Kapler days. So a long time ago, when Gabe Kapler brought up the curveball machine and the infamous Bryce scoffing at it and going like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I wonder if some of these vets are just very like, this is the way I do it. This is the way I go about it. I'll listen to the input. But like, maybe I don't want to go above and beyond what my routine is, what my daily grind is. Not to say it's right or wrong, but there may be a feeling of like, and I'm not saying Bryce is the issue, but I'm just saying that's like a microcosm of maybe vets' attitudes towards some of it.
Which actually sadly makes me concerned that when you look at this team, there's the daycare, there's the superstar veterans that have the large contracts, there's the young guys that are scrapping along. This actually does make sense to me as to why we saw like the Buddy Kennedys and the Cal Stevensons and Cody Clemens come in that maybe were more bought in. We're giving you good at bats. You saw the daycare kind of caught in between, possibly. Like the Alec Bohms and Bryson Stotts might be caught in between of, I want to follow what the veterans are doing, but I also want to listen because I have to earn my way. Like these things actually, lack of buy-in is so on brand for what we saw from the team.
But that being said, also,
that's concerning.
Harper and Nick were the only two to really show up.
And they were.
So there are other veterans as like Trey.
We don't know
Kyle,
we don't know which guys.
About.
We don't know which guys are or are not bought in. But we heard Rob say it.
But he said it three times in one answer. He was like, we got to get them to buy in. We got to convince them to buy in.
Someone's not bought in is what we took away from this.
But I did like his answer about gaps.
Yeah.
Because it was actual like, we talked about it yesterday. One of the okay, how do you improve guys' chase rate and plate discipline? And basically he's saying we got to drive the ball to gaps more, and that will make you more aggressive and protective of all zones, and you won't chase as much. So I actually really liked Rob's answer there.
And I know you liked it. I'm sure other of you caught on to him saying about turning the lineup around, maybe moving some people around. That's something that's on the table.
That was something.
That was exciting to hear that there might be potential in changing the lineup because we've talked about it and a lot of people have talked about it. Whether it's either just, it has to be leadoff. Whoever's hitting leadoff, it starts there because of the righty-lefty. So
it's about protecting Harper, right? Like,
it is.
I really think, to me, that's the most pressing thing this offseason, whether it's from the roster you have or obtaining somebody new. Like, you just can't have a 4-hole hitter if that's where he's batting. I personally would want Bryce Harper batting first or second in my lineup. But that's an issue for another day. But if he's going to be batting 3-hole, you need somebody in the 4-hole that's going to give you better protection come playoff time. Alec Bohm and Nick was okay, but like that's not his natural role. I think he would even tell you I'm not a 4-hole hitter. I'm a 5 or 6 hole guy. So we'll see if we can come up with it. But that was interesting. He mentioned the lineup.
The lineup and the buy-in are the two things that really have me shook from what Rob Thomson said. I know, Ed Wright, you're saying get rid of a player who isn't hungry for a ring, in parentheses, Turner. I'm thinking Trey Turner's not bought in. I'm trying to, it's a shame. It's got me speculating of who seems like Nick personality-wise seems like a guy that would be stubborn, but he also was one of the best and most consistent players. So now we have to wonder and connect the dots of a lot of what Dave said and Rob said. You have to read between the lines because they're not going to openly tell us these things. It's going to take time. We'll see in the moves that get made, the offseason moves especially.
I think there's going to be a couple creative trades.
I think there has to be. There has to be. And you need
the free
to
agent
change.
market is, we got a lot of time to get into it, Renee, but I've been skimming it over. Outside of your big names like Soto, obviously, and Santander, and Alex Bregman, is obtainable. There's not a ton. So, it's going to be really interesting to see what they do. But after the comments today, I don't think they're necessarily, to quote Brett Brown, star hunting.
Oh, gosh. Ugh.
I don't think they're star hunting.
They're not star hunting. They are going to look to get guys better. There's a plan in place for a number of them this winter. That we do know, whether they're on this team or not on this team. Some guys, Taijuan Walker, Johan Rojas, that seem like they might not be coming back. But we will see for sure because we've got a long offseason and continue to dive deeper into all the comments that have been made. One thing we do know, Rob Thomson isn't going anywhere, and neither is his staff. They're all coming back. Caleb Cotham, Kevin Long, they're all coming back. The youth we got into. So we'll continue to unpack this tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another edition of PHLY Phillies podcast presented by Ace Hardware Home Services. For Tyler, Jamie, myself, Renee, we'll be back live 11 a.m. every single day, Monday to Friday. So that includes tomorrow. We'll be back live to start getting into some end of season grades. Plus, we'll be able to take a deeper dive into all that was said today from Rob Thomson and Dave Dombrowski in their press conference and much more here on the show. We'll see you guys. What is today? Tuesday. Wednesday for more here on PHLY Phillies. Have a good one.
We all silly like the mayor.